This was a goal that I had. Even if I fail, I know that I can wake up in the morning and look myself in the mirror and go, you know what, I gave it my best shot. Maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't, but at least I know that I did it and I tried.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the best MBA podcast in the world, Get to Be School. This is your host, Drex, and I'm thankful. I really am thankful that you're here. I feel like I've said this for the past few weeks, but we got to keep this intro quick because we are celebrating third kiddo's birthday. He turns 1 tomorrow. So it's a stacked day tomorrow. I will not be home most of the day. So we're going to celebrate today. We got a little watermelon cake. I don't know if you've seen that, but we're doing the anti-real cake because we believe in punishment, I guess. And so we're going to give him a watermelon cake. A quick sidebar. I just am so grateful for this community. Things have been really fun. Things are progressing, and I love the conversations that we're having. So to everyone who's taken part, who has listened, who has shared, who has suggested a guest or has come on themselves, thank you. As per usual, this episode is stellar. Scott Peterson's over at Wharton right now, and he dropped so many great things. It was one of those episodes, one of those conversations that struck a chord for me personally. I love what he says in the third quarter of the episode around personal goals and believing in yourself and just giving your all, even if you don't reach the absolute goal. Stay tuned for that. He also drops a great tidbit about the Lauder program at Wharton. Be sure to listen to that, especially if you know someone who's interested in going to Wharton who has a second language or who has some interest in global affairs. It was fantastic. The note, I just have to make another quick plug. He suggests Red Notice. Absolutely read that book. One of my favorite parts of living in New York City was this book club that we had. They're still going strong. I absolutely loved talking with those gentlemen about the books that we were reading, and Red Notice was one of the best. So be sure to read that. If I can do anything to help, please reach out. Please do the usual like, listen, subscribe, share, all that business. Thank you for everything that you're doing. Without further ado, let's get to the good part now with Scott Peterson. Scott, thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. This is great.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this one. Scott, to the listeners, I want to endorse Scott here. He's a cyclist. He's from New York City. He's very, very driven, and he's got the most beautiful family. It's been fun to meet you and watch you excel. You've really been an example of perseverance and drive. So it's fun to chat with you today, man.
Well, thank you. I'm honored to have been selected for chatting with Drex. So it's a real pleasure to be here, and I'm excited to have the opportunity.
Yeah, it's very selective what we let through the filter here. So tell us where you're at, Scott. Tell us what's going on.
So I'm at the Wharton Business School, and maybe I can, for the benefit of everyone who's listening, just give a little bit of a history of my background and where I came from originally. So I grew up in Utah, went to Brigham Young University, graduated with an undergrad in accounting. From there, I decided that I wanted to follow in my dad's footsteps and to become an auditor. So I worked for Ernst & Young in the Bay Area for 3.5 years and was auditing Apple, SurveyMonkey, some smaller biotechs. And honestly, I would have had a really great career staying and doing exactly that for a long period of time. The partners were saying, like, if you want to be partner track and it's a great gig, this is the 17-year path in order to achieve that. And I was like, whoa, that's a long time. And furthermore, I didn't really love what I was doing. I didn't know that. I don't think that audit was a great fit for my personality and what I wanted to do, and wanted to pivot into becoming an investor. So I lateraled to Credit Suisse's merger and acquisitions group in New York, which is where Drex and I met, and worked there for 2 years. That laid the groundwork for me to move from sell-side investment banking into buy-side private equity, and landed the most recent gig that I was working at, which is at Lone Star Funds in New York, which is an $8 billion upper middle market private equity fund.
A great example of being very, very intentional in your next steps. I love that. You didn't really fall into anything there. You can tell it was intentional. The folks at EY will take you back any day, man. You just say the word and you're on that 17-year partner track once again.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun, and a lot of people don't necessarily appreciate like how great the pension program is. A lot of these big four programs. So I may have been one of the later ones, and I don't know if they offer the same program to new joiners, but when I joined, it was like 80% of your highest year's pay for the rest of your life, which at the time, like big four partners in the Bay Area were making on average like $750,000 a year, I think. So that's a pretty good passive income stream. So it's not a bad gig. The issue was it wasn't my passion being an auditor. It just wasn't.
Yeah.
I was wanting to do something apply the skill set that I'd learned as an accountant in a slightly different way, but able to, overnight, like double my income, and also was excited about what was available, thereafter.
And see, it just begs the question, well, then why business school? Because you were able to get to the buy side, you were able to get to the investing portion at Lone Star. So talk to us about why business school.
Yeah, it's a good question because, typically in order to break into, investment banking, the best, and candidly, 40% of the students that are here at Wharton, and I'm sure at Northwestern as well, is looking for investment banking roles and are coming out of, call it the audit roles, or, whatever it is that they may be coming back from, tech, something else. So I had kind of already had my business school like transition, if you will, in my career. And the answer to that question is I was getting kind of tired, making that transition and sort of teaching myself finance overnight was like, I aged probably a million years going through that process. And then, again, like breaking into buy side roles from investment banking, like I aged another million years. So I was like 2 million years old by the time that I finished at Lone Star, and was a little bit tired and wanted to take a break and kind of turn down the RPMs for a little bit and have some opportunity to spend some time with my family. We just barely had our second baby, Sebastian, who is 3 months old. And I just wanted to be able to spend a little bit more time with him. Additionally, there's all these trips that you go on, right? Like business school is famous for this. We've got like 10,000 trips that are planned. I had to skip out on Croatia this week with all the friends because there was opportunity week, and like we're trying to do things like get a job. And so I had to skip that. And so I was excited about being able to travel with a bunch of my friends, have a really fun, differentiated experience while I'm still young, and make some family memories, and at the same time explore a couple of other things that I was kind of interested in, which I can talk about a little bit more. I had this investment thesis in Russia, which I can expand on, but I think that was kind of really the biggest thing, is just an opportunity to slow down and have a different change of pace for a little bit.
See, your drive is somewhat similar. We both know Landon Iyer. He was a guest previously, and he talks about like life enrichment. I love that kind of scope for approaching business school. How's Kelly doing? Is she loving it?
She has a social calendar that is more robust than my own, which is
I believe it.
Kelly well, but the way that we have it kind of set up here at Wharton is there's a lot of the dads get together that have kids, and a lot of them have all moved into the same building that's near campus called Locust on the Park. Highly recommend it to anybody who's considering, with kids coming to Wharton Business School. Because we all live in the same building, it makes it really easy for folks that are all in the same kind of life circumstance, dealing with kids, and mom is supporting dad or vice versa. And as a result, Kelly is like constantly hanging out with all the other moms with kids. They're going to the park together, they're going to the zoo. They got 10 million different, like, once the kids are down, social activities of like pajama parties and all these things that are going on. And so on like a Wednesday night, I come home and I'm like, hey, my cohort's getting together, they're having a happy hour, looking forward to going and hanging out with some of my classmates. Kelly's like, nope, sorry, you're home with the kids. I got my own event. This thing has been on the calendar for 2 months already. Oh, by the way, I got 3 more events this week. So, thanks for your support. I feel, a little bit outmatched in her ability to like just put things on the calendar faster than I can.
It's just a race to the calendar. She's so good at being social, and not just an event goer. Like, she plans the most beautiful events. I was so jealous of my wife getting to go to those showers in Central Park, those baby showers, whatever.
Yeah, she's got a lot going on all the time. She's having a lot of fun.
Back to your missed trip to Croatia. I would almost feel bad for you, except you're still going overseas. Talk to us a little bit about your summer travels, and maybe a little bit into the Lauder program.
The Lauder program is a little bit of a unique thing that not a lot of people know about. So I'm glad I'm having the opportunity to kind of spread the word a little bit. And I'll provide a little bit of like historical context. I promise this is going somewhere. Estee Lauder was the founder of, shocker, Estee Lauder Company, the cosmetics brand. She did a wonderful job. Her son, William Lauder, was a student here at Wharton, coincidentally was roommates with Donald Trump, which was a whole separate thing. But the problem that the company was trying to solve at the time was expanding borders overseas. Traditionally, at that time, MBA programs were really well geared at teaching American businessmen how to, is effectively kind of a trade school, how to be better American businessmen, not necessarily overseas, considering an international global environment that we work in more today. And was disappointed that there wasn't, a program out there really that did a great job of teaching business folks how to think about the international space. And so as a result, they made a huge donation to the school and created what's today known as the Lauder Institute. And what the Lauder Institute is it's a section of 80 students within the 900 that get admitted every year, they will have an extended focus. So it's a little bit of extra fun that begins before the regular way program starts. You're focused on a specific region of the world based on a language that you have an advanced low level of speaking. So that's a certain level within the OPI test. And if you hit that certain level and you also are admitted by the Lauder combined Wharton program, for 2 years, you're going to have language focus up at front. During the summer starts, you'll have 4 weeks that you're here in Philadelphia with just those 80 students getting to know each other, but also focused on some classes in English that are focused on global economics. And then for the next 6 weeks thereafter, you are sent to your area of focus to focus on the language primarily, but also meet with local business leaders, government officials, and professors from local universities, economists, and things like that. So I spoke Russian and am very excited about what the post-current war conflict investment environment is going to look at once all of these sanctions start to fall. And, I'm really excited about becoming an Eastern European investor. And so, unfortunately, we weren't able to go to our traditional place, which is St. Petersburg, given, the war that's going on. And so instead, we spent our time in Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia.
There's just so much to unpack there. Did this all stem because of your time it was Ukraine, right? That's where you spent a couple of years doing missionary work.
That's right. So I was a missionary for my church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Mormons. Yeah, I was there from 2011 to 2013. In Ukraine, they speak both Ukrainian and Russian. I think today, if I were to go and spend a lot of time speaking Russian in Ukraine, I would probably not be as well appreciated as I was in 2011 before, Russia kind of annexed Crimea and then the aggression began. So, the geopolitical sphere has changed dramatically in the region. But I'm very excited about, what the future has to hold, once the unrest sort of settle and the dust sort of settles, whatever that new paradigm is going to look like, because I think there's a lot of infrastructure rebuilding that's going to need to happen. A lot of folks that have, a tremendous amount of skills in engineering, software, technology that are kind of underutilized. And there's going to be a lot of growth. And, I'm excited to participate in that.
See that again, it's kind of just admiring your ability to look ahead and be very intentional. The thought of taking that spin on what's going on over there, it would be the last thing on my brain. It's like, oh my goodness, how can we help with the recovery and start investing and get in at a time when no one else will be really thinking about it, which at least not the layman, not the Drexlers of the world will be thinking about it. So my question to you, with such a particular goal, with such a particular ambition, what is recruiting? What do jobs look like right now in that kind of an ambition world?
Well, they don't exist at all is the answer to that question. I mean, as it stands right now, nobody knows when the war will happen. We spent all summer investigating this question. And the answer is that no one has any better information than you and I have. My investment thesis was one that kind of started when I read a book called Red Notice. It's about a man named Bill Browder. I can't remember I don't think Bill wrote it. I can't remember who the exact author was, but it was a New York Times bestseller. And it's a great book. And I highly recommend it to everybody.
I was hoping you were going to bring that up. Yes.
The second half of the book you can skip. It's about how his lawyer got thrown in a gulag, unfortunately died as a result. But
don't skip that part.
Well, but my point is that I feel like, some important lessons have been learned about dealing with, nations where rule of law does not always prevail. That doesn't mean that it's a bad investment place. It just means that we have to understand that that's the environment that we live in. Oh, by the way, Russia is not the only place where this sort of thing happens. It just happens to be one that, it shows up in Hollywood more often, right? But I guess my point is that I think some lessons have been learned in terms of, dealing with emerging markets and, places where we don't necessarily have rule of law. And so that's something where, we'll be top of mind. But in terms of, recruiting pipelines and things like that, I mean, this is not something that I will be able to sort of progress toward until there is some sort of stability in the region. We may have to have a long-term view on that. That may be in 1 year when, I'm done with my MBA program and, in the final throes of recruiting. That may be in 10 years, in which case now for the meantime, I'm kind of creating a plan that is a break glass in case of emergency type of thing where I'm preparing myself and putting the necessary skills that I need. Importantly, the language. I was able to speak a lot about religious topics as a missionary, but not so much about how to walk from revenue to EBITDA. And and, talk about business multiples and valuation and things like that. And so those are the kind of things that I'm focusing on now, such that when the time comes, I'm ready to go hit the ground running, because this is going to be an opportunistic type situation where, the awards go to the first person there. So in the meantime, I'm going to be recruiting for potentially hedge funds, investment management, so like long only funds, private equity. I may even consider doing a search fund, because that seems to be like all the craze at any MBA program. And I've been told multiple times that I'd be a fool not to investigate a search fund. So I don't want to be foolish.
I was just talking to a friend yesterday about search funds. Someone made the funny comment that a search fund is like, what is it? It's like making HVAC in Ohio prestigious enough for the Harvard MBA to feel good about it. It's like, it's okay. If we call it a search fund, it's cool.
Hey, look, somebody's got to do it, right? So,
well, there's money there. There's a reason people are doing it.
So. People, they can make a great deal of money.
I have to say this. Red Notice, just going back to that, there are two kinds of people. The people who read the first half of that book and are like, I will never do business in Russia. And then there are people like you, they're like, now I can do it a little bit differently and not go to prison, though. I admire you, man. We had different takeaways. Okay, speed round, because I can't believe it's almost out of time. When it comes to applying, what advice do you have? Any hurdles that you had to overcome? It's hard to get into Wharton.
So GRE is it's always going to be the boon and like most difficult piece of the application process, unless you're just like a savant and get like perfect scores, which those exist. But for me, I'm not a smart person. I'm a person that gets better as I spend a million hours working on it and try and fail and try and fail and then get better. So that was my experience with the GRE. I hired tutors. I went with Princeton Review, and then I went with a different thing that Jacob Johnson, who if you haven't had on the podcast, you need to have him. He recommended that I work with another program called Greg Matz. It was a program that he used, and he had an astounding outcome as a result. So try a few different things, fail at first, just keep grinding at it. And honestly, I feel like it's a really difficult thing, but it's one that like with enough time and dedication, you can improve your score. And then I did use application advisors as well in order to help write the essay. And so, these things, they cost money, but it was something where I was like, hey, look, this is something that I am really interested in the long term, and I'm going to make an investment. Even if it doesn't pay out, what I'm doing right now is I'm paying an insurance policy on the rest of my life and being able to look at myself in the mirror and say, you know what, this was a goal that I had. Even if I fail, I know that I can wake up in the morning and look myself in the mirror and go, I gave it my best shot. And you know what, maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't, but at least I know that I did it and I tried. And, and here I am. And obviously everybody, will pivot into whatever it is that they feel the best about. And they're going to have a great outcome as a result, because nobody wants poor outcomes for themselves. My point is, if you're on the fence about applying to programs and it's hard and you're getting your teeth kicked in every single day, like I did, just keep trying. And even if you fail, it's okay, because you're going to have that insurance policy of like, look, I tried and put in the effort and here I am, so that's a great way to think about it. At least that was the way that I thought about it.
My favorite thing about that though is that it's just so fun for me as a friend to see that it is working for you. I love that outlook. Whether or not you start invest. Hopefully the war ends obviously today, and you can start making those moves. But it's going to be just fun to see what comes next for you, man.
I think the only thing that I'll close with is when I was young, and you talk to young Scott, the high schooler, if you had told him at any point that he was going to go to Wharton Business School, I would have laughed you out of the room and thought that you're crazy. And by the way, no one needs business school anyways. But I think that part of the reason that I took that type of approach was because I didn't believe in myself. I didn't think that I was good enough for that sort of thing. I think the most powerful lesson that I have learned and that I want to pass along to my kids and anyone else that I will lend an ear is to just chase your dreams as much as you can and believe in yourself, because the reality is that you make a bet on yourself, you put in the work, and you know what? The reality is that you are probably way better than you give yourself credit for, because we are all our own best critics. I think that my goal is just to instill upon everybody to believe in themselves as much as possible and to never give up on your dreams.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That's a perfect note to end on. I love that. I don't have anything to add. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. My goal before the end of the 2 years is I want to reach out to Bill and have him do like a guest lecture here. And I just want to sit there and like pick his brain for as much as possible. And I'd be like, this is the coolest thing that's ever happened in my life. So
Kelly, you're great too, but this is This is amazing.
Do you know who came here? Bill Browder. He's the greatest Hermitage Capital. You got to understand, Kelly. He's the coolest guy that ever happened. She's like, wow, you're such a nerd.
The best thing that ever happened to me.